Okay. The device you are watching this on is probably being used as a weapon against you to change what you think. Alright, you gotta hear me out though. If you've been on the internet for any amount of time, you probably know about super radical content, whether it's really radically right or really radically left. Everyone's come across some dude with like a microphone yelling about how rain is making you, I don't know, like sick or something. And really, it's pretty easy to look at this content and understand its bad faith and misinformed nature of it. In addition to those negative effects though, there's this other kind of underlying effect of this super radicalized content. It's kind of desensitized us into thinking that we can't be radicalized, which isn't really true. So to fully understand all of this, we need to think about what a radical thought even is. In its most basic form, I've found that a radical thought is one that needs processing. It's an idea that cannot just be justified by its own. It's really just a claim that's not believable without some extended background knowledge. Like for example, if I were to tell you that I believe pigeons are not real and that they are robots, that's obviously kind of a crazy claim and it jumps out at you at first. And that claim is kind of radical because there's all this background knowledge that makes me believe that pigeons are robots. Because I wasn't just told pigeons are robots, I was given all this information, like why do pigeons sit on power lines? Is it because they're charging? Why are there so many of them? Why do they migrate? Are they going to update? They're creepy. Why do they move kind of robotically? So I believe all this information and then create the idea that pigeons are robots. Okay, so now that we understand what a radical thought is, we can start to understand how radicalization works today. So this process of radicalization has been almost unimaginably expedited by algorithms and social media. You're probably aware that social media pushes polarizing or super high engagement content. And engagement is the only thing they care about. They just want you to interact or engage with something, and a lot of the times that is polarizing content. Social media does this because they just want a reaction out of you, right? The longer you stay on their app, the more happy they get. It's basically all these numbers telling it that it's doing a good job because it's giving you something that you're just continuously interacting with. Like for example, let's say you see an Instagram reel of some drunk dude on like a bus doing something funny. Like you might interact with that, maybe you'll watch it, maybe you'll comment, but like you're not commenting on a reel, come on. Maybe you're sending it to a friend, but that's all, you're probably gonna scroll. But if you see a video of some wild political take, I mean you might scroll past, but you also might send it to a friend, maybe you'll talk to your friend about it, maybe you'll look at the comments. You've just engaged with Instagram for another 30 seconds, right? You've been on the app for longer than you would have been if you didn't see that content. So now you've reacted to that content, told the algorithm that you're interested in that, and now you start seeing more of it. And they track all of that. They know how long you've been on the app, and they know how to keep you on. Also, if you don't believe that Instagram and social media tracks all of that stuff, you've probably just not been on Instagram, because they just definitely are. Try talking about a product you want or looking it up on Google and then seeing Instagram target an ad like instantly, like you open the app and it's right there. Pretty scary. Also, if you don't believe any of that, look at all the research, like this or this or this or this or this. I mean, Instagram is tracking you, dude. Okay, so social media does promote some type of polarizing content, right? So we can kind of see how maybe that can connect to radicalization because you're getting this radical content. Now, social and algorithmic researchers have done a bunch of research on how social media and radicalization are like, you know, like really buddy-buddy today. All right, so bear with us here. Okay, so these Cambridge researchers right there, they identify radicalization today as a multi-step process they call technological seduction. All the research will be in the description, and this is only taking a portion of the big paper, but they talk about this technological seduction model, which basically the website or social media platform tells you, I know what you're thinking. And according to the Cambridge philosophers, this creates sort of a intimate psychological bond between you and the website, which really makes sense because if someone knows what you're thinking, that's like really intimate. Also kind of scary, like why does this website know what I'm thinking? And this personifies itself in many ways. Like I was talking earlier, it could be like an ad for something popping up that you thought about or are talking about on Instagram. But in relation to radicalization, the Cambridge researchers talk about this being in the form of answering a question before you can even answer it yourself. Basically, once you accept that in fact the algorithm does know what you're thinking, whether by just like clicking on it, interacting with it, the psychological bond between you and that algorithm tightens, which allows it to have a greater hold on you and makes you come to it with more questions. And this process all starts with your curiosity being spiked. So it's like a recommended YouTube video or typing something into Google and you see an autofill feature which kind of makes you curious, and then you click on that and you kind of get led down this whole sort of rabbit hole. Now, the real problem with all of this is that it interferes with your natural reasoning. Whether it's Google, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, if it does that, whatever, they all kind of close this loop of reasoning, because you're given this question and then instantly given this answer. Here's a quote from the paper to make it make a little more sense. Quote, first, YouTube tells them, I know what you're thinking. Next, they accept that attribution. Third, they encounter propaganda that directs them to take action. Finally, they do so. So basically what's happening is, whether you know it or not, your computer or phone or whatever is telling you they know what you're thinking, and is also telling you they know the answer. Really, the main takeaway is that psychologically we trust algorithms. So that makes them really effective tools for radicalization. I feel like that point is given across, but I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page. Okay, back to it. So to support our Cambridge friends, we have algorithmic researcher Luke Munn, who also points to this multi-step process. He explains his process has been synthesized through a bunch of other research, so it's not necessarily his own, rather a collection of a bunch of people's put into his own categorization, if that makes sense. Okay, so I tried to film some of it outside to be artsy, but the wind sounds horrible at some parts, so I'm going to interject with this every once in a while. So Luke says this process is normalization, acclimation, and dehumanization. So to break that down, normalization is basically where irony and humor play a huge role. Basically, radical words and thoughts are being Trojan horsed down your mind through memes. Journalists and public policy researchers Fong and Woodhouse in 2007 say, quote, when users post so many word I can't say and word I can't say jokes, they become so detached from reality that they become susceptible to the messages of bona fide hate groups, a transformation referred to in forums as irony poisoning. Basically what's happening is individuals are getting hit with so many memes and jokes with these really intense words and intense rhetoric that they're sort of becoming more used to it, which kind of leads into the second point, which is acclimation. Acclimation is basically this feeling of home that individuals get. This kind of goes back to what the Cambridge researchers were saying, where you trust the algorithm. Kind of trust that your YouTube page or your Instagram or your Twitter is really safe and is giving you accurate information. Luke Munn says that acclimation happens through psychological habituation rather than conscious, rational affirmation, which is exactly what the Cambridge guys were saying. In a different way from the memes, you're getting bogged down with so much information that you can't personally fact check it all. It's just so much content and content and content that your brain isn't really built to be able to say that's fake, that's not real, whatever. So you just kind of start accepting everything. Now finally, what Munn describes as the psychological prerequisite to violence is dehumanization. The easiest way to make someone cause violence toward another is by making the attacker feel like the subject isn't a human anyway. And because you already trust your algorithm, you allow these really intense rhetoric to affect you from these really radical creators. I'm sure we all have a radical family member, and all of these family members have been, at some point, not radical. It's super important to ask yourself, do you trust this algorithm? Why do you trust the algorithm? And how can I fact check what's going on in my digital world? So some key takeaways are that both the Cambridge researchers and Luke Munn, an algorithmic researcher, have concluded that algorithms work with radicalization to stop the natural reasoning process. And this is really dangerous because this happens when you don't even know it's happening. Algorithms are not necessarily bad, but they are used to be bad. You should also understand that if you are radicalized, you're not dumb. A lot of radicalized people are very normal people. They're just victim to this really evil loop that gets a lot of people. And you may have been radicalized before without even knowing. You have to fact check and you have to naturally reason. You just got to. Especially today. This is more than just iPhone bad. It's like, wow, this thing is super powerful and really scary. Okay, so stay out of echo chambers. Respect your natural reasoning. Let yourself think. Let yourself digest content and understand when something is trying to mislead you, when it's not trying to mislead you. We are all going to make mistakes. We're all going to misunderstand content. But it's really, really important to try your hardest to understand. And don't call someone who is radicalized dumb. They're just a victim. Which is hard because that takes a lot of empathy now. You have a good head on your shoulders. There's a reason that this is not the head on your shoulder. That's basically it. I'm gonna go inside now. Thanks for letting me waste your time. Give me nooks.